Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about a love so deep, so raw, so all consuming, that you forgot who you were just to keep it alive. You poured your heart into someone, piece by piece, until one day you looked in the mirror and couldn't recognize the person staring back. You gave them your energy, your time, your dreams, your peace, and in return, you were left empty. Not because you weren't worthy, but because you loved them more than you ever loved yourself. This speech isn't just a reflection, it's a wake up call. For every soul who bent until they broke, who whispered a "I'm finer" while their spirit was bleeding, who stayed too long trying to fix something that was never meant to last. This is for you. Because no love, no matter how intense, should cost you your identity, the love you're searching for. It starts within, not in chasing validation, not in proving your worth to someone who couldn't see it, but in reclaiming the parts of you that you gave away too easily. So if you're still grieving, still aching, still asking, what more could I have done? I want you to sit with this, feel it, and then rise. Because this time the love story begins with you. Losing yourself in love isn't romantic. It's not poetic. It's not what fairy tales are made of. It's one of the most silent, soul-crushing betrayals we do to ourselves, dimming our light slowly, one compromise at a time, all in the name of being enough for someone else. There's a difference between choosing love and surrendering your entire identity in hopes of keeping it. But when your heart is deeply invested, when your emotions are running on overdrive, it doesn't feel like a choice. It feels like survival. You tell yourself, if I just give a little more, maybe they'll stay. Maybe they'll finally see me. Maybe they'll love me the way I've been loving them. But every time you give a little more of yourself, you lose a piece that was never meant to be handed over. You stop doing the things that made you feel alive. You start shrinking in rooms you once walked into with confidence. You forget the sound of your own voice because you've been too busy echoing someone else's needs. Your happiness starts depending on their attention. Your self-worth becomes tangled in their validation. And when they pull away or stop noticing you, it doesn't just hurt, it feels like you're disappearing. Because you don't remember what it felt like to exist independently from their presence. The truth is, self-abandonment often hides under the illusion of love. You think you're being loyal, committed, or selfless. But what you're really doing is disconnecting from your own needs, numbing your own instincts, silencing your inner voice that's been whispering, you deserve better. And the saddest part is, the longer you ignore that voice, the quieter it gets. Until one day, you realize that you're still in love, but you don't feel safe. You're still giving, but it's not reciprocated. You're still holding on, but deep down, you're the only one who hasn't let go. We're taught to believe that love requires sacrifice, and yes, love does require effort. But not sacrifice of the self, not at the cost of your joy, your voice, your sanity, or your soul. Loving someone deeply should never come at the expense of loving yourself. Because when it does, you're not building a relationship. You begin to walk on eggshells, making yourself smaller so they don't feel threatened, toning down your accomplishments so they won't feel insecure, apologizing for your feelings just to keep the peace. That's not love. That's emotional survival, disguised as devotion. Sad. The reality is, when you love someone more than you love yourself, you're not being a hero. You're setting yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. You're erasing yourself from your own life. And when they walk away, and they usually do, you're left with the ashes of the person you used to be, wondering how you let it get this far. But here's the most painful truth. They didn't steal your power. You gave it away, piece by piece, out of fear, out of loneliness, out of the belief that maybe, just maybe, if you proved your love hard enough, they'd finally give you what you needed in return. But love isn't a transaction. Love is not a test of endurance. And love that costs you your self-respect is not love, it's dependency. When someone truly loves you, they won't need you to shrink. They won't celebrate your silence or demand your submission. They'll want to see you thrive. They'll push you to grow. They'll remind you of your power, not profit from your insecurity. And most importantly, they'll never ask you to betray yourself to stay close to them. It's time to stop confusing obsession with loyalty. It's time to unlearn the idea that breaking your own heart to keep someone else's whole is love. Because real love, healthy, conscious love, starts with knowing who you are and never abandoning that truth for anyone. If you lost yourself trying to hold on to someone else, I want you to understand something. You didn't fail at love. You just forgot that you were worthy of being chosen too. You forgot that your heart matters, that your boundaries matter, that your dreams, your desires, your peace all matter. This isn't about blame. This is about awakening. This is about facing the parts of you that beg to be loved and realizing that it's your job now to love them first. It's about reconnecting to the version of you that didn't seek validation but knew her worth. You may have loved someone more than yourself, but that doesn't have to be your story forever. You can draw the line. You can come back home to you. And when you do, you'll realize you never needed to prove your love to anyone. You just needed to remember that you were already enough. The love you were searching for out there has always lived inside you. When you start chasing love, desperately hoping to be seen, chosen, and kept, you start losing tiny pieces of yourself. At first, it doesn't feel like a loss. It feels like compromise. It feels like you convince yourself that love requires sacrifice, that if you just give a little more, hold on a little tighter, they'll finally understand what you bring to the table. You lower your voice when you should have raised it. You stay quiet when your soul is screaming. You accept less because you're scared of being left with nothing. And in the name of love, you hand over your peace like it's collateral, like it's an exchange you have to make to be loved. But that's the lie, isn't it? We are taught, especially as women, that love should be our highest achievement. That having someone love us means we've won something, that we've proven our worth. So we chase it blindly, hungrily, foolishly. And in that chase, we ignore the red flags. We let the bare minimum feel like fireworks. We tell ourselves they're just going through something, that they'll come around, that our love will fix it. And so we give, until one day we wake up emotionally bankrupt. The silence that surrounds you after giving too much is deafening. You start bleeding emotionally, and it's invisible to the world. You show up to work, you laugh with your friends, you post the happy photos, but inside, you're aching. You've become a stranger to your own reflection. You don't recognize who you are anymore because you've twisted yourself into a version you thought would finally be lovable to them. You sacrificed your peace to gain a presence in their life, but all you got was absence dressed up in occasional attention. The hardest part is realizing that you weren't chasing love. You were chasing validation. You were trying to prove your worth through someone else's inability to see it. You were trying to make someone love you so you could believe you were enough. But real love doesn't require performance. It doesn't demand pain. It doesn't make you question your sanity or your worth. Real love sits beside you on your worst days and says, you don't have to earn this. Real love doesn't ask you to shrink, dim, or break. When you chase love at the cost of your peace, you are screaming to be chosen by someone who doesn't even know how to choose themselves. And that scream, though silent, goes through your spirit. You feel it in your sleepless nights, your anxious overthinking, your inability to breathe around them. You try harder, do more, say less, hoping it'll be enough. But peace can't live in a heart that's constantly begging. Peace can't bloom in a space where you're always second-guessing. And no matter how loud your love is, it can't fill the void left by someone who doesn't show up with their own. You weren't meant to bleed for love. You were meant to grow in it. It should be the place where you heal, not the reason you break. And the truth is, the love that makes you chase, that makes you feel less than, that makes you bargain with your own soul, isn't love. It's a wound. And wounds don't get better by bleeding more. They heal when you stop picking them, when you start protecting them, when you finally say, this is enough. Sometimes choosing peace means choosing silence, walking away without a dramatic exit, letting go without needing an apology. It means choosing yourself in a world that told you selflessness was the only way to be worthy. But baby, your peace is power. And anyone who costs you your peace is too expensive for your future. You don't need to lose yourself to keep someone else. You don't need to chase what's already meant for you. Because when love is real, it meets you. It sees you. It calms your storms, not create them. Let the bleeding stop. Choose your peace. Because once you taste what it feels like to wake up without fear, to speak without trembling, to love without begging, there's no going back. You'll never again let chaos wear the mask of love. You'll never again confuse attention for affection. You'll finally realize that the love you were searching for in them was waiting for you inside yourself all along. When you give all your love to someone and forget to leave any for yourself, what you're really doing is disappearing slowly, one decision at a time. And the worst part is you convince yourself that this is what true love looks like. You romanticize the pain. You call it loyalty. You call it being a ride or die. You wear your suffering like a badge of honor, as if your emotional bruises prove you've loved deeply and rightly and rightly. But underneath all that devotion, what's really happening is self abandonment. And no relationship is worth losing yourself for. The truth is, there's a difference between loving someone and losing yourself in them. Love should amplify who you are, not erase your identity. But when you place someone so high on a pedestal that you forget your own value, you stop making choices that protect your heart. You silence your needs. You tolerate behavior that disrespects your spirit. You bend until your soul is exhausted, and even then, you tell yourself that if you just hold on a little longer, love will be enough to fix everything. That's not love. That's fear. Fear of being alone, fear of not being enough, fear of walking away and not being remembered. So you stay. You stay and keep loving harder, hoping that if you give more, they'll finally see you. But they won't. Because the moment you put yourself last, you've taught them that you don't require to be first. And people will only meet you at the standards you set for yourself. If you constantly prioritize someone else's happiness at the cost of your own, they'll believe that's your role. And they'll keep taking. And you'll keep giving. Until one day you have nothing left to give. You see, love doesn't mean neglecting yourself. It doesn't mean erasing your boundaries. It doesn't mean tolerating behavior that drains your energy or leaves you questioning your worth. You were not created to be a footnote in someone else's story. You are the author of your own. And if someone makes you feel like you need to become less so they can feel more secure, that's not love. It's manipulation in disguise. And let's be real. Sometimes the person you love is not bad. They're not evil. But they are emotionally unavailable. They are inconsistent. They are unsure. And you're the one doing the emotional heavy lifting in hopes of creating a fairy tale from fragments. But a relationship cannot thrive when only one heart is doing all the beating. Love isn't supposed to hurt that much. Yes, it requires effort, but not suffering. Yes, it asks for compromise, but never self-erasure. You may think that being the bigger person means accepting less, but that's a lie society sold to women to keep us small. The truth is, being the bigger person sometimes means walking away. Sometimes it means choosing yourself even when your heart is still tangled in someone else's. It means recognizing that being alone is far better than being half loved, half heard, or half seen. You don't need to abandon yourself to be loved. You need to return to yourself. You need to look in the mirror and see the girl who once dreamed so loudly, who used to believe she could conquer the world, who laughed without fear of judgment and danced without worrying about who was watching. That girl is still in you. She's not gone. She's just been buried under years of trying to be everything for someone who didn't know how to love you, right? And the moment you stop waiting for someone else to choose you, and you start choosing yourself, something magical happens. You speak differently. Your energy shifts. You stop accepting crumbs because you realize you are the feast. You stop chasing love because you realize love should never make you feel like you're hard to love in the first place. Let that be your awakening. Loving deeply is beautiful, but not at the expense of your soul. The love you're giving away so freely, save some for yourself. Pour it back into your dreams. Pour it into your growth. Pour it into becoming the woman who knows she's worthy of a love that doesn't demand her silence or sacrifice, but celebrates her strength and presence. You can love someone and still walk away. You can care deeply and still say, "This isn't good for me." You can mourn the loss and still move forward with grace. Because loving yourself is not selfish, it's necessary. It's revolutionary. It's the standard. And from that place of self-love, you will attract a different kind of love. The one that holds you, honors you, and never asks you to shrink in order to stay. The moment you choose yourself, everything begins to change. When you've spent months or even years putting someone else first, the idea of choosing yourself can feel like a foreign language. It's uncomfortable. It's unfamiliar. It might even feel wrong at first, because you've been conditioned to believe that self-sacrifice is noble, that staying quiet is maturity, that holding everything in and being a low maintenance makes you lovable. But here's the truth that so many of us have to learn the hard way. Choosing yourself is the most radical and life-changing act of love you will ever commit to. It is the line in the sand where your healing begins and their power over your peace ends. There's something powerful that happens when you stop begging to be chosen and decide that you are the one who gets to do the choosing. You stop chasing people who never intended to stay. You stop trying to prove your worth to those who benefit from your self doubt. You stop bending to fit into spaces that were never built for your full expression. And in that shift, from needing approval to owning your truth, you begin to reclaim everything you've given away. When you choose yourself, you're not turning your back on love. You're turning your back on disrespect. You're walking away from relationships that taught you that love equals pain, that being seen means being judged, that expressing your needs makes you difficult or dramatic. You're rejecting the idea that you have to shrink to be palatable, that your softness is a weakness, or that your independence is a threat. This isn't about becoming hardened or closed off. It's about becoming whole. It's about learning that your peace is too expensive to be compromised by anyone's inability to love you correctly. It's about rising up from your own heartbreak and saying, no more. I won't abandon myself to make someone else feel secure. Choosing yourself means saying yes to your growth, even when it's uncomfortable. It means allowing yourself to grieve the version of you that tolerated so much just to feel a sense of belonging. It means looking at the wounds that you've been hiding under "I'm finer" and finally giving them the space to heal. You start setting boundaries. Not because you're trying to be mean, but because you finally realized that not everyone deserves access to your energy. You become more intentional with your time, your words, your emotions. You don't chase closure anymore. You give it to yourself. You stop waiting for someone to apologize for hurting you because you've learned that peace doesn't come from their remorse. It comes from your decision to move forward, with or without it. And here's what they don't tell you about choosing yourself. It's lonely at first. It's raw. You might cry more. You might doubt yourself. You might miss the comfort of chaos because at least you knew how to survive it. But don't confuse familiarity with safety. You're not here to just survive. You're here to thrive. And that only happens when you create space for the real you to emerge. The you who is unapologetically honest. The you who says what she feels without over-explaining. The you who dreams without guilt. The you who no longer tolerates halfway love. That woman is waiting for you on the other side of your decision to choose yourself. And guess what happens when you begin walking in that truth? Everything shifts. The way you speak about yourself changes. The way you allow others to speak to you changes. The way you view love, partnership, purpose, it all changes. Because you're no longer operating from a place of lack. You're not seeking validation from broken people. You're not overcompensating for someone else's inability to see your light. You become magnetic, not because you're trying to be, but because people can feel the difference in your energy. They sense that you know your worth now, that you're not desperate for attention, but grounded in self-respect, that you're no longer available for games, inconsistency, or emotional scraps. And that energy, that's what attracts the right people, the right opportunities, the right kind of love. So don't be afraid of choosing yourself. Don't be afraid of disappointing the people who benefited from your silence. Don't be afraid to let go of the love that taught you how to break your own heart. Be afraid of losing yourself. Be afraid of dimming your light for people who only see your shine as competition. Be afraid of wasting your life waiting for someone else to give you the permission you were always meant to give yourself. Because at the end of the day, you deserve a love that starts within you. A love that is loud, confident, unwavering. A love that says, I will never abandon you again. And once you find that love within, no one, not even the person who hurt you, can take it away. A letting go of who hurt you is not weakness. It's how you reclaim your power. When someone hurts you, especially someone you love deeply, the instinct is often to hold on. Not just to the pain, but to the memory, the hope, the version of them that once made you feel whole. There's a strange sense of safety in the sadness, as if holding on means it still mattered. As if letting go means you're giving up. But the truth is, letting go isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing yourself, even when your heart still remembers. It's about breaking your own cycle of self-abandonment, even when it hurts. You see, pain becomes a habit. When you're hurt, especially by someone you trusted, your mind goes into protection mode. It replays everything they said, everything they did, looking for a clue, a reason, an answer. You dissect every moment, trying to figure out what you missed, what you could have done differently. But in that process, you unknowingly chain yourself to the wound. You keep bleeding from a place that someone else walked away from without looking back. And that is where your healing begins. Not in understanding them, but in choosing to release yourself from that prison. Letting go is not the easy route, it's the bold one. It means facing the fact that you may never get closure, that they may never apologize, that the version of love you gave may never be returned the way you gave it. But still you rise, still you breathe. Still, you decide that peace matters more than pride, that your future deserves more than a heart full of resentment. There is nothing more courageous than choosing not to let the pain harden you, than choosing softness in a world that rewarded you for being silent, than saying, I will feel this fully, but I will not let it define me. That's what reclaiming your power looks like. It's not loud, it's not always visible. Sometimes it looks like finally blocking that number. Sometimes it looks like deleting pictures. Sometimes it looks like not responding when your heart is screaming to reach out. Every quiet act of letting go is a loud declaration that you are choosing healing over history. Because the moment you let go, you start to create space. Space for truth, space for clarity, space for new beginnings. Pain occupies so much room in our hearts that there's often no space left for peace until we release it. That doesn't mean pretending it didn't hurt. It means acknowledging it did and choosing to stop reliving it. That's the shift. That's the empowerment. When you hold on to the one who hurt you, you're still giving them access to your spirit. They may no longer be physically present, but emotionally, they're still shaping your days, still controlling your worth, still defining how you show up. But when you choose to let go, you take back control. You step back into your own life as the author, not a supporting character in someone else's chaos. And that kind of power, letting go, also requires forgiveness. But let's be clear, this forgiveness is not for them. It's not to free them of guilt or consequence. It's for you. To free you from the poison of bitterness. To release the anger that slowly eats away at joy. Forgiveness is choosing your peace over your pain. It's saying you no longer get to live rent-free in my head or heart. It's not forgetting what happened. It's just refusing to let it rule you. Sometimes the hardest part about letting go is letting go of the dream, the potential, the version of love you built in your mind that never quite matched reality. And that's okay. It's okay to mourn the fantasy. But don't stay there. Don't water dead flowers hoping they'll bloom. Don't invest in a love that bankrupts your soul. Let it go. Because what's meant for you will never require you to betray yourself to keep it. And if you ever wonder whether it's too late to reclaim your power, remember this. Every single day you wake up is a fresh chance to begin again. No matter how broken you felt, no matter how many pieces you've had to gather, no matter who walked away, who ghosted you, who chose someone else, you are still here. You are still worthy. You are still capable of a love so true, so healing, so aligned, that it'll make everything you've endured feel like a necessary step toward becoming the version of you that never settles again. You don't need to be perfect to let go. You just need to be done carrying the weight. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to know that your peace matters more than their presence. And once you step into that truth, you'll realize you were never powerless. You just forgot how powerful you were when you kept giving your energy to people who didn't know how to hold it. So let them go. Let the pain go. Let the story go. Because the next chapter requires a stronger, freer, more awakened version of you. And the only way to meet her is to make room for her to rise.